Just before my daughter turned 3, she asked me, "Mama, what's Christmas?" When I opened my mouth to answer, all that came out was a raspy choking sound. It was more awkward than the time she ran to me in the daycare pickup line, gave me a huge hug, and then yelled for all to hear, "Mommy, your breath smells like a fart." Let me explain. I was born to a pair of card-carrying, dope-smoking, radical hippie Jews in Winnipeg, Canada. There's not a lot of Jews in Winnipeg, Canada, and even fewer card-carrying, dope-smoking, radical hippie ones. My parents were free thinkers, when they weren't stoned, and felt that organized religion was a thin construct of a socially enfeebled culture. As a kid, I didn't know what that meant. I still don't. But it didn't matter because on Sunday mornings, while my friends were waking up at 7 a.m., pulling on itchy dresses and dusty tights for church, I was cocooned in a polyester blankie, laughing at Bugs Bunny and gloating at my good fortune while jamming handfuls of Count Chocula into my yap. And then December would roll around. Hanukkah would slide past our house without a nod. That was fine with me. I didn't know any other Jews. As far as I was concerned, they were mythical creatures. And Hanukkah was just some week-long holiday that I could never really figure out how to spell. No, my soul-scarring pain, it belonged to Christmas. My holy grail, the one holiday I desired more than anything in the world. I would have gladly sacrificed Halloween for Christmas, and I was a whore for Halloween. The caroling, the gingerbread, the trees, those innocent pines just dripping with tinsel and lights and those big shiny balls. Oh, Christmas tree. But in the Stein house, Christmas was the most despicable of religious holidays. My parents rejected its crass commercialization, its Judeo-Christian fascist hypocrisy. Mostly they hated the idea of being forced to spend time with extended family who didn't approve of their alternative lifestyle or frequent consumption of pop brownies. But my parents, God or somebody bless them, they had the presence of mind to realize that even though they had their principles, our family was weird enough already. Depriving their kids of presents during the holiday season was just one toke over the line. And lo, Stein Day came to pass. Stein Day fell on December 26th. Boxing Day, also known as the Great Canadian Fire Sale. When sometime around mid-afternoon, Mom, Dad, and the big blue Rambler station wagon would pull into the garage, loaded down with half-price Legos, out-of-the-box erector sets, and several bags of Chinese food. And while the kids played with their loot, Mom and Dad would spoon out the chop suey, smoke a bowl or 2 or 7. And that was that. Happy Stein Day, everybody! No visiting relatives stinking up the bathroom, no commie fascist Hallmark bullshit. Just fun. By the time I was old enough to really appreciate it, Stein Day had gotten even more casual. My teenage brothers couldn't be paid to hang out with our parents, even if they did have the best weed in town. And the magical, cavernous Rambler station wagon, now deceased, had been replaced by a VW Bug, in which my mom would drive me to Kmart, hand me $20, and tell me to get yourself something and bring me back the change. While I truly appreciated the strings-free cash, I wanted more. More what? I didn't know, just more something. The year I turned 11, I asked my mom if we could take a crack at this whole Christmas thing, maybe get a small tree. She laughed long and hard, then gave me her stock answer of, "Don't be ridiculous." because underneath all that tie-dye beat the heart of a pragmatic dictator. That is when my search for Yuletide satisfaction began. On Christmas morning, before anyone in my house was awake, I would shower, get dressed in my fanciest duds and snow boots, then leave the house to make my rounds. I'd have breakfast with the Taylors, lunch with the Herberts, and supper with Robbie and Crystal Ricketts. After gorging myself at each stop, I'd do some much-needed research. Stein Day was a mere 24 hours away, so the chance to test drive my friend's freshly unwrapped booty was a gift in itself. It's how I learned that sea monkeys suffer from an egregious case of false advertising. And that an easy-bake oven, even if it is just a hot light bulb encased in plastic, is spectacular. And then I would walk home with a full belly, loaded down with some cast-off gifts, some leftover pie, and an odd feeling like I cheated the system, but still didn't win. When I turned 16, I fell madly in something like love with a boy who wooed me by reading to me from his hip youth Bible, The Way, which featured colored photos of Jesus, who it turns out was a stone-cold fox. True. On our first Christmas Eve, Matthew took me to his church. It was a homey Presbyterian joint, and as we held hands and sang songs about frankincense and reindeer, I felt a deep sense of warmth and belonging. And the feeling remained later that night when he felt me up in the back seat of his car. My heart welled with emotion in the spirit of Christmas. Unfortunately, my swollen heart was obliterated a week later when Matthew broke up with me, saying he didn't have enough love in his heart for both me and Jesus. That year, the year that Jesus stole my boyfriend, that was the year that I made peace, that I would never make peace with Christmas. And I didn't. As I entered adulthood, every year became an experimental improvisation of holiday cheer. One year I'd put up a tree and decorate it ironically with sneakers and fake mustaches, and the next year I would ignore it completely. Sure, I'd enjoy a slice of Christmas ham when offered, and who was I to say no to a 5,000 calorie cup of eggnog? But the older I got, the more estranged we became. Christmas was like a Facebook friend that I'd stalk now and then, but I wouldn't dream of inviting him to stay at my house for a week. By the time the husband arrived, I was long past my Christmas obsession. He's also a semi-Semite. And the year we hooked up, we agreed to skip the whole holiday thing and instead went to Vegas for the weekend. Yeah, we felt like we'd beaten the system, which is what Stein Day was all about, right? Well, that and sticking it to the commie fascist establishment. But then, enter the daughter and her pesky holiday questions. Once I was able to get a hold of my breathing, I told her what Christmas was and explained that I didn't grow up celebrating it like most people, but that my parents had created a holiday tradition that worked for them. And that's when it hit me. We were the parents now. We could do the same thing. We could carry on my parents' tradition by having our own holiday tradition. And so now, we celebrate Christmas. And Hanukkah. And Stein Day. And the kid's birthday, which is December 28th. For us, it's not about beating the system at all. It's about diving into an orgy of celebration. We have a 4-foot-tall Christmas tree with a blinking Star of David on top. We have stockings and dreidels, bagels and turkey, and sometimes I ask my husband to feel me up in the backseat of our Honda, just for old time's sake. And this year, on December 26th, friends will come over for a Stein Day brunch, except without the bong. prefer to vape. There will be gratitude for flexible family, and the halls will ring with well-wishers calling out, Merry Christmas Stein to all.